Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by Legacy FC welterweight Trey Houston. Trey, how are you?
Not too bad. Yourself?
I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. Trey, the name of the game is really random. That's where I ask you a random question and you give me the real answer. Some of these questions are custom made just for you, and some of these questions are generic ones that I ask all the people I interview. So, here's the first question. Superpower you'd love to have?
Flying.
Favorite movie?
Snatch.
Favorite color?
Blue.
Favorite guilty pleasure?
Ice cream.
Trey, you've got a fight coming up December 2nd at Legacy FC 63. How's training been going for the fight?
I'm pretty good. It'll be my first one in quite a while. I was supposed to fight for him last time they came to town, and my opponent backed out the day of the fight. So that'd be nice just to get back in there. It was a disappointment last time when I put in a full fight camp and then didn't get a fight. But everything's going well. I feel good, no injuries.
So many fighters in this sport are constantly telling their manager to get them a fight. They're constantly messaging promoters on Facebook asking for fights. They're calling guys out on Twitter, mainly because this is how they pay their bills. This is their career and this is how they make money. But the other half of it is because they're competitive and they want to fight because they love this sport. So half of it is money and the other half is the competition. So that's why they do it. But you're a guy who views this sport more as a hobby than you do as a career. So how actively are you pursuing fights? Are you constantly asking your manager to get you a fight? And the reason I ask is because this fight against Charles Byrd that was supposed to happen back at Legacy FC 54 back in April, you could have easily fought from April till now. You could have at least got one or two fights in. So how often are you looking for fights?
Well, when I first started, I was real active. I was a college student, and while I was in college, that was what I was doing for money. So I was fighting actively at that time. And after college, for a little bit, I didn't fight. I figured I needed to focus on work and didn't need a distraction. And I go back and forth because as soon as I think, like, all right, I don't think I need to do another fight, I think about the long-term consequences of it. And if I have kids later on in life, like, possible brain damage and things like that. I mean, it's a reality of the sport. But every time I think, I'm done and I don't want to have another fight, I'll start training again, and there's just something that always kind of draws me back to it. As far as the process of getting a fight, it's just been I've kind of gotten an itch, and then someone will offer me a fight, and I accept it. That's how it's been the past couple of years. But I'd like to. I'm at a point right now where I would like to give it, one good shot and really try and pursue it. I'll see how this fight goes, but I'd like to get active again and, actually give it an honest effort. I don't want to look back when I'm older and just constantly wonder, how far I could have taken it.
At any point during this 2-year layoff that you've had, did you consider yourself retired? Was there any point where you thought that you weren't coming back?
Possibly. I thought, I don't know, I never really closed the door. It was always just sort of open-ended. If I got offered a good fight, then I knew I probably would take it. I didn't say one way or another. I was just sort of on the fence about it.
Now, I was going to ask you a few different things, but based on what you've told me up until this point, some of those things that I was going to ask you no longer apply. But answer me this. What's your goal in fighting? Because you're a guy who views this sport more as a hobby than you do as a career. So what is the goal right now in fighting? Do you even have one?
I just want to see, I want to give it an honest shot and see what the extent of my ability is. Like I said, I don't want to wonder later on in life, how far I could have taken it or what the possibilities were. I mean, a lot of guys, you know, that's their sole focus is I want to get to a big show or I want to be a world champion. But fighting to me is just, it's always been more about me than anything else. It's just kind of self-discovery, like it's a chance to see what my breaking point is, just kind of like self-experimentation, I guess. It's always been more of a personal experience for me. But I'm to the point where I would like to see, you know, just how far I can take that.
If you're healthy and your opponent is healthy and the fight doesn't get canceled or the event doesn't get canceled, if everything goes according to plan, how many fights a year would you like to fight? What's a good amount of fights for you to fight, let's say, in 2017? How many times would you like to fight next year? Because I'm sure it's not, okay, you're going to fight one fight and then have another layoff. I'm sure, should you win this fight on December 2nd, you want to get back in there pretty quickly, I'd assume. So in 2017, what would be a good amount of fights for you during that year?
I would like to do 4 or 5 a year. I mean, when I was active, I easily did that. And then I had a lot of amateur fights when I first started out because, again, I was just doing it for fun. And I think I did like 16 amateur fights in less than a year when I first started. So, I mean, I like being active. It's just as I get, you know, when I get to the higher levels, everyone's dangerous. And even when you win, you can get injured. So sometimes the biggest difficulty in that is just staying injury-free and healthy.
What is your full-time job?
I work as a geologist.
Does it bother you that at this point in time you're only remembered in MMA for getting kicked in the balls and breaking your cup?
No, it doesn't really bother me. Like I said, I've always been fighting just for my own benefit. I've never been one to, you know, get online and, you know, get into any of the pre-fight talks or anything like that. I don't hold ill will towards any opponents, and I'm not looking for like confirmation bias from outside sources or anything like that. So it doesn't really affect me what, you know, the general public or strangers, you know, think about my career as a fight. Like, I have a lot more outside of fighting, and I'm a lot more than just a fighter. And, you know, it's all the people close to me and around me that their opinion matters, and they know the truth of it, and all the people I train with know who I am as an athlete and as a fighter. And those are really the only opinions that matter to me.
This surgery that you had, if you don't mind me asking, why did you need surgery? What were they going in to repair? It tore the interior lining in between the two testicles when he kicked me. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
It was, and then I had a broken left hand, so after the surgery I was on crutches, and then on my left hand when they casted my hand, they had to cast it, the very first cast they put on, they had my hand in a fist. I guess that was the way they had to do it to heal. Mm-hmm. Then slowly, every couple weeks, they'd recast it and extend my fingers out, and eventually the last cast had my hand with my fingers extended fully out, and they casted it that way. But the first cast was my hand in a fist, and so I just had a little club, and I couldn't hold anything in that hand, and so I was on crutches after the surgery, but I could only use one crutch, and it was pretty difficult to get around. But I was in the grocery store grabbing something and trying to carry something and probably looking pretty pathetic trying to get around, and a random guy came up to me and he goes, "Oh my God, I saw you on TV. You got kicked in the nuts. How are you? How are they?" I was like, what's your name, sir?
Oh boy. What an injury. What a video. It's been viewed by many people.
Yeah.
What a kick.
I knew it broke the cup, but I didn't I mean, I think it was because it was so early on in the fight.
Mm-hmm.
I still just had that big adrenaline up. I didn't notice until towards the end of the first round where every time I moved there was sharp pain. I honestly, at first, I knew it cracked the cup, but I didn't think there was any like actual like damage. I thought it just hurt. And then towards the end of the first round, I started noticing that I started kind of getting scared about it. But I'm going to wear a steel cup from now on, so that won't happen again.
Yeah, one of those tie cups.
Yeah, exactly.
You need one of those for sure.
I never thought that'd be an issue. I always thought, why the hell would you need a steel cup?
Yeah.
It's a little excessive.
Now, I know I'm probably not supposed to ask you this question, but because I'm naturally a curious person, I'll ask it anyways. Earlier, you were talking about health, you were talking about brain trauma, you were talking about having a family. Are you in any danger of not being able to have kids because of this serious injury?
No, I should be fine. I've been to the doctor afterwards, and after the surgery, had the checkup, and we went through all that, and it shouldn't be an issue.
Okay. Enough of that. That was rough. That was rough. And I don't mean to bring it up again because...
No, it's fine. I mean, it's done and over with. It's not anything I'm bitter about. I don't think it was intentional. I don't harbor any animosity against it. Mm-hmm. And now it's just kind of a funny story. People at the gym still joke about it. Mm-hmm. And if anyone's asking questions about, certain techniques when we're doing stand-up, I always... we'll throw in a joke. Just hit him in the testicles. It's really effective.
Right. One more thing about this injury, and then we'll move on.
Yeah.
At any point, did you consider stopping and not continuing on in the fight?
No, it didn't. Afterwards, I'm pretty logical in my approach to almost any aspect of life. And afterwards, I looked at it and was like, okay, this could have done long-term damage. It was dumb to continue fighting, but at the time, it never even crossed my mind as an option to stop fighting. As soon as it happened, I think it only took like 30 seconds or something before I wanted to keep fighting.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, I'd gotten ready for the fight, and like I said, it's something that I enjoy doing, and I want to get in there and do. Like, on the night of the fight, I show up, and I'm ready to fight, and I don't care who else shows up. I hope my opponent shows up, obviously, but I'm there, and I'm in the cage. I don't care if there's an audience or lights or anything like that. Like, I'm there and ready to do what I've been getting myself ready to do for months. So, I mean, it really wasn't a viable option to stop fighting until afterwards, and everything had worn off, and I was like, okay, maybe that was a dumb decision, but turned out all right.
You haven't had a fight in 2 years, but it feels like you haven't had a fight in 10 years. It feels like that Battlegrounds tournament that you were in the last time we saw you fight in the cage was a lifetime ago. I don't know why I'm feeling this way, but I think it's because Juan Cornero, he went on to win that entire tournament, and then he made the move over to the UFC, and he's done well. So I think that's why my timeline is a bit off. So does it feel like you've been out of the cage for only 2 years, or does it feel longer?
It doesn't feel very long at all since I've been away from it, because, I mean, I got ready for a fight less than a year ago, and I fully got ready. I showed up, I went to weigh-ins, my opponent didn't back out until a few hours before the fight. Mick, the owner of Legacy, called me a few hours before the fight and just explained the situation. And so, I mean, I fully got ready for a fight. I've still been cornering people in the gym, training other people for fights. So I've been around the sport for the past 2 years. I just haven't personally had a sanctioned fight. But it doesn't really feel that long ago to me because I'm in that environment all the time anyways.
Trey, going into this fight, do you have any worries about ring rust?
I don't know, honestly. I've never had this long of an absence from the cage. I don't feel like it'd be an issue. I've never been one to really be affected much by nerves or anything like that. I wouldn't think it would be an issue, but I always hear about it, so I'm kind of interested to see if it will be, if I will have to shake off some cobwebs at first.
How did this fight with Legacy all come together? Because obviously you were supposed to fight for Legacy back in April, but that fight fell through. Now, is this a carryover in terms of contract from that fight because you still technically owe Legacy a fight because you didn't fight for them last time? Is this just a carryover, or is this a whole new contract? Because it makes sense for Legacy to put you on this card. You're an Oklahoma guy. Not originally, but you went to college there and you decided to stick around. So you're an Oklahoma guy now, and they're throwing a show in Oklahoma. It makes sense for you to be on that card. So what exactly is the deal with Legacy? What exactly is your contract status with this promotion?
They've been trying to, right after that fight, they wanted me to fight on their card in Shreveport. I don't remember what it was. It was a couple months after the original fight was supposed to be. And they've offered a couple others, but with work and things like that, I wasn't able to do it. So I don't think, I just have a contract for this one fight, but I'd like to perform well and continue fighting for them. I think they're a good organization and they take care of their fighters.
I've seen some people write things on social media regarding this event, and there seems to be a little bit of confusion. There's a lot of people out there who believe you're fighting Gerald Harris on December 2nd. Everyone seems to be very excited about the fight, but this fight isn't happening. So the only reason I'm bringing this up is because I wanted to ask you and see if you've gotten anything on social media. Do people think you're fighting against Gerald Harris? Have you run across anyone who thinks this fight is happening?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Maybe people that aren't around here might, okay. But Gerald Harris is one of my main training partners, here in Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. So anyone around here knows we wouldn't be fighting. Mm-hmm.
Because I thought so. I'm like, I think these guys train together, and I think they're friends.
I see them almost every night at the gym.
From the outside eye, the way they have it.
I could see, their perspective and it as a viable option. But MMA isn't very big here. We have a lot of big, very high-level jiu-jitsu gyms in Tulsa and Oklahoma City, but we don't have very many MMA. And especially, you get two in the same weight class. We're about, at our weight, we're about the only two people that we have to train together. So, if you put us in a fight against one another, we wouldn't really have a training partner. So, it'd make it a little bit difficult. There's just not that many fighters here.
I guess the question of the day is, who are you fighting at Legacy FC 63 on December 2nd? Because I got a very interesting email from Bellator earlier this week, and they say that your opponent, Levi Queen, is fighting at Bellator 166 on the exact same night that he's supposed to be fighting you. So he can't be fighting for them and fighting for Legacy on the same night. So who are you fighting on December 2nd?
I'm fighting Bilal Williams out of Texas. Probably about 3 weeks or so I was notified of the change. I've never been a huge one for game plans. Mm-hmm. I want a rough idea of what I'm going to do and what my opponent's strengths and weaknesses are and things like that. But I've had enough fights that a fight doesn't ever really stick to a plan like you think it's going to. So I'd try and prepare and everything and just keep in mind their tendencies that I think they have. So the opponent change doesn't really affect me or bother me much at all.
How much do you know about your new opponent?
From my understanding, I've watched a few of his fights, and I saw him the last time he fought for Legacy. He's just a big, strong guy with really good cardio. I think he's aggressive, comes forward well. I think that if he's not attacking, then he doesn't know what to do. I feel like on his heels, he stumbles and doesn't know what to do at all. He's dangerous against the cage when he can use his height and pin people against it. So I definitely don't want to. I definitely want to stand my ground and don't want to get him running forward.
Hobbies outside of fighting?
I do a lot of carpentry. I read a lot. Very like esoteric and random hobbies, I guess. I get really interested in certain things, and there's not really a rhyme or reason to them. Like Halloween was coming up, and I wanted my dog to be Batman for Halloween, so I decided I was going to try and sew him a Batman costume. So I spent like 3 or 4 months teaching myself how to sew and made him a costume. And so my hobbies really like vary. I'll get interested in something for 3 or 4 months and really do a whole lot of it, and then kind of switch to something else. So I guess kind of like ADD with my hobbies.
Do you have any pre-fight rituals or superstitions?
No, I don't. I just try and stay calm. I usually just try and crack jokes the whole time before, and I never have headphones in or I'm trying to get myself hyped up. I'm usually trying to do the opposite. I have enough energy as is. I don't need anything to get me amped up for the fight. They're locking me in a cage with someone who's trying to hurt me. That's enough of an adrenaline rush for me.
Do you have any post-fight rituals?
I usually get a piece of cheesecake from the Cheesecake Factory. Just food. That's about the only thing I think about. As soon as the fight's over, I just eat as bad as I can.
What motivates you in life and in fighting?
I mean, in life, just challenging myself, self-discovery. I'm here one time. I want to experience all of it in every way that I can.
Besides fighting, what are you passionate about?
I just, same. I have a thirst for life. I want to learn as much as I possibly can about as many different topics as I can. That's probably why I jump from hobby to hobby and really get into certain things. I just like to experience, all different aspects, and what I like talking to people that are experts in different areas of life that I know nothing about.
Celebrity people say you look like?
I used to get, when he was finishing college and coming into the NFL, I used to get Tim Tebow all the time, and I don't really watch any sports, and when people first started saying that, I didn't know who he was, and I had to look him up because I don't watch football. But yeah, I got Tim Tebow and the Archer from the Avengers. I can't remember the actor's name. Jeremy something. But those are the two that I have probably gotten before.
Who's your celebrity crush?
Scarlett Johansson, maybe.
Sticking with the Avengers theme.
Yeah, I guess. Wasn't intentional, but...
Okay. Go-to song when you're singing in the shower?
Hootie and the Blowfish, probably. The Let Her Cry song.
Ooh, good one. Good one. Favorite food?
Tikka masala, like the Indian food.
Favorite TV show, and it can be a show currently on the air or a show no longer on the air. Just overall, favorite TV show.
Right now I like Arrow.
Ooh, great show. My favorite show on TV also. Are you all caught up? Have you watched every season?
Oh, yes, yeah. Yeah, I'm all caught up.
What do you think about the current season? I think it's pretty solid so far. The last two have not been that great, but I think it's all right so far.
They've been slow, but I've still enjoyed them. I like the character progression in it. So even when it's not like an action-packed episode, I really enjoy it. They have a new show on. I can't remember the name of it, but the Arrow makes an appearance in it, and they time travel on that show. Yeah,
Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what it is. My roommate was watching it the other day, and I asked him what it was, and I sat down and watched a few episodes. So now I'm gonna have to go back and watch all of that.
Yeah, that's a pretty good show. I watched that. I watch all those shows except Flash. I never really got into Flash. I'm not that big of a fan of the
comic. I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, but I watch all the other ones, so those are pretty good.
Yeah.
Favorite band and or solo artist?
I like a guy named Ben Howard. He's a British. He does real soft music, and then I like Mumford and Sons would be my favorite band, probably. Everything I listen to is real calm.
Is Trey your real name?
It is. Yeah, I'm not a third.
Oh. Why did your parents decide to name you that?
I don't think they realized it meant third.
Oh.
It was typically a nickname. It was just one they liked.
How many tattoos do you have, and what are the meanings behind these tattoos?
I guess you'd call it one tattoo, but it goes from the top of my right knee all the way up, like underneath my armpit, and then across my chest, and it's all over my left shoulder. And it's Japanese artwork, and I've just always really liked that style of artwork. And they always have different meanings and everything. In all of their artwork, there's a lot of symbolism. And so the top of my right side is a juniper tree, and the roots come down onto my hip and wrap around a koi fish. And the koi fish is, in their culture, the koi fish is just strength and solidarity, as well as the juniper tree. It's rooted, but it's able to be flexible and flow, and it can bend to different circumstances while still remaining strong. And then across my chest, the leaves are blowing, and it turns into birds and feathers. And then there's a large phoenix on my left, like pec and shoulder. And I mean, the phoenix is a pretty straightforward meaning in a lot of different cultures, but just like new beginnings and being able to rise like out of the ashes, since it has a cyclical lifestyle.
If you could trade places with anyone in the world for a week, who would you trade places with, and why?
I was just listening to Joe Rogan's podcast the other day, and the Dan Blazarian guy was on there.
Yeah.
Seems like he had a pretty fun life.
Yeah.
Wouldn't mind trading with him for a while.
Yeah, I listened to that one also. And I would agree. Quite a character that guy is.
Oh, yeah.
What do you worry about? What's something that keeps you up at night?
Probably just that I'm not fully prepared for the zombie apocalypse.
That Just Happened is your nickname. Who started calling you that?
It was just kind of random. My first amateur fight was just, back when I started, you didn't have the same regulations that, are in place now. It was kind of the little bit of like the Wild West back then. And so there weren't like doctor checks or anything. And you just came and filled out a form, and my younger sister was with me when I did, and I was filling out the form, and there was a spot for like a nickname. And when I was filling it out, I was joking about what my nickname should be, and she wrote in That Just Happened, and it was just so happened to be around the same time that Talladega Nights had come out. And I ended up knocking the guy out with a knee real fast in the fight, and the announcer was shouting that, and the people there kind of liked it, and I thought it was kind of funny, so I just kept it. And then, it wasn't really my intention to just, always have it. I also didn't know I'd still be fighting or anything like that, but it became like a popular thing with all the people at my college, so I just kind of kept it and stuck with it.
Well, at your gym, the people who train jiu-jitsu with you call you the sandbagger. Is it true that you're really only a blue belt?
I am. I'm just got my blue belt maybe 6 months ago, but I've only done gi for a short while, so that's why. But I'll stay a blue belt as long as they want me to.
Yeah, I figured that much. I'm like, maybe he doesn't train that much in a gi because a majority of your wins are by submission. So I'm like, okay, either he hasn't trained that much in the gi, or the school that he goes to, it's really, really hard to level up to the next belt. I'm like, I have to ask him about this. So you really are a blue belt.
Yeah, I am. But the gym I train at's incredible jiu-jitsu gym too, and I mean, there's a lot of blue belts there that are on the same level I am, and they're just strict about, you know, they don't just give anyone their belt.
Mm-hmm.
You really, really have to earn it, and it's not just a matter of skill. It's, you know, your character and things like that too. So, still a blue belt has pretty low character.
Had you been training in the gi as long as you've been fighting in MMA, what level belt do you think you'd be at? Like, what level do you think you really are at? Do you think you're a brown belt? Do you think you're a black belt? What level do you think you're truly at, had you been training all this time in the gi?
I think I'd be a real like grizzled purple belt, probably. Maybe a real new brown belt. There's a lot of things I don't know. As far as jiu-jitsu goes, I mean, there's a lot of aspects of the game. It's just there's so many different options, and it's not my sole focus. But I feel like there's, you know, a lot of guys who are just so much better technically than me. I think a lot of it is I'm fast and strong, and I'm able to capitalize on certain positions, and I have to use that more so than technique a lot of times.
What's the best thing that ever happened to you?
I don't know. I guess existing. I mean, it's just such a, you know, 1 in a billion chance in general. So, I mean, just that alone is pretty amazing.
What's the worst thing that ever happened to you?
Probably go back to the kick.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. Probably when the game Skyrim came out, I think I wasted like 4 months of my life playing that game.
Dana White had a great quote about video games, because he said when he was like 16 or 17, he was playing like an early version of video games, and he's like, I never played video games after that because I didn't gain anything from doing it. I didn't gain any money. No one gave me an award. No one gave me anything. I just lost a bunch of time. So even if you're winning in the video game, you're still losing. So that's why I stopped playing video games. That was like 5 or 6 years ago. I heard that quote, and I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm just wasting time. I could be doing this. I could be interviewing someone. Why am I sitting in front of my TV? Forget this. So I can relate.
Exactly.
Person you look up to the most?
I mean, my hero has always been Nelson Mandela. I mean, after coming out of prison for 27 years, instead of being elected president, instead of going after his oppressors, he made sure that they were treated fairly and united a country that was, you know, on the verge of collapse and in turmoil. I mean, he preached kindness and forgiveness.
What's your pet peeve?
I have maybe slight OCD. I like things being back where, like, if you find something somewhere, you put it back where it goes. And Tupperware is my biggest thing. Like, I notice when anyone that lives with me or my girlfriend takes Tupperware to work, and she'll leave it there, and she thinks it's funny that every time she comes home and I see her, like, unload the Tupperware and meals that she had brought into the dishwasher or into the sink, and I'll be like, did you leave one at work? And she's like, why do you always count my Tupperware?
That's funny. That's funny. Best advice you were ever given through life, and best advice you were ever given through fighting, and who gave it to you?
I don't know. In fighting, I spent a little bit of time. I spent a summer up at the main militage camp when, you know, it was still real active, and I was really, really green, and I had just started. And Pat Militage, you know, I had the honor of rolling with him, and he took the time out of his schedule to, you know, train with me a little bit, even though I didn't know what I was doing. And I remember at the end of the training session that day, he said that he'd been participating in wrestling or martial arts or some form of it for over 40 years, and he still learns something new every day. And, you know, just to never forget that about it. And that was probably the best advice in, like, fighting or martial arts that I've ever gotten.
Okay.
I think there's one that narrows it down.
Okay. Fair enough. Some people are afraid of spiders. Some people are afraid of heights. Some people are afraid of the dark. What are you afraid of?
Probably horses. I have a healthy respect for them. I really enjoy them. I've never been on one, and my girlfriend's family has a ranch in Kansas, and they have a lot of horses, and I was really excited about trying to ride a horse. And the whole way up there, I kept bugging her about it, and then we got there, and she hadn't seen her family in 6 months, and I was just bugging her about, like, when could we get on the horse, and she just wanted me to leave her alone, so she had her 6-year-old nephew go out and saddle the horse for me and, like, put me on the horse, and there's a little 6-year-old kid telling me what to do, and the horse starts to go and takes off, and at what I assumed was a full-blown sprint, and all of a sudden it was bucking everywhere, and I throw myself off the horse and hit the ground and roll and just take off running. And apparently what had happened is it had, like, barely been trotting, and it just stumbled and tripped a little bit, and I just bailed off the horse. But I was under the impression it was, a bucking bronco, and it was going to kill me.
Right. Yeah, those things are dangerous. They've got a mind of their own. You got to be careful around those. Yeah. So that's a good thing to be afraid of. Yeah. Number one thing on your bucket list.
I want to get certified in scuba diving.
What's your hidden talent?
Probably singing Hootie and the Blowfish in the shower.
Sing a little bit for us while you're talking about it. Go ahead.
No, that's a lie. You don't want to hear me sing.
I tried. I had to maybe see if you would fall for it. I'm always trying to get someone to sing, but no one's ever doing it. So maybe one of these days I'll get someone.
I always think that's funny. I'd be willing to, get hurt in front of a lot of people and put myself out there like that. But you get anything else with any fighter, not just me, but they're so embarrassed to do so many other things or have so many quirks or different fears, when to anyone else who doesn't fight, it seems absolutely insane to do what we do.
Trey, last question. If you could change one thing about the world, what would you change and why?
God, just due to the current situation, just an option besides Hillary or Trump.
Well, you listen to Joe Rogan, there's always Gary Johnson.
Yeah, true. But I don't know. One thing I think people always think they're the center of their own universe, and I'd like people to have the awareness to realize that all the people around you have complex and sprawling lives. I mean, have all these crisscrosses and intersecting paths, and people just get so tunnel vision, and they forget that, and you get self-centered, and I mean, it's a natural tendency. I have a tendency to do it as well, but just to be able to have the awareness to look outside of that, I wish that was more prevalent.
Trey, real quick before I let you go, do you have any sponsors you'd like to thank, and is there anything you want to say to the fans?
I want to thank King Daddy and Trigger Athletics. Both of them helped me out a lot for this fight. And then just to the fans, just be ready December 2nd. It's been a long time return for me, and I'm ready for it and looking to make a big impression. If you've seen any of my previous fights, they're exciting and explosive, and they end quickly, so don't blink.
Trey, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it, and best of luck coming up on December 2nd at Legacy FC 63.
Thank you very much.